flag of liberty.
Introduction for formality's sake, please. Go on, please, madam.
Thank you, Master Jonathan. Thank you very much. I say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good night to every one of us, depending on where you are. My name is Nwada Uchechi Okwu-Kanu, the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Ohamadike one of Biafra land. Ndewo.
Ndewo Nwada, Nwanyoma. You are welcome to the program. You know, here we say it as it is, as you know, because we don't try to be politically correct. It doesn't matter. Now, let us go to the business of the day, because you need to talk to Biafrans and take some questions from me. The first question I want to ask you is this: how are you faring with your children? In this case, do you sometimes feel dejected or frustrated owing to the fact that our leader, who is your husband, passed through this same ordeal for 18 months in 2015 and is now passing through the same situation? How are you feeling, please?
Thank you. We are coping. We've had to cope. I mean, we have to, as there is absolutely nothing we can do but to survive. It is very difficult. It is absolutely difficult. Where I have stepped in as both mother and father, especially with a young child, a young boy child, who is involved in activities that requires the participation of his father. You know, for instance, you have a child you need to take to football, swimming, even school drop-offs and pick-ups. But his dad is not available to do all that bonding activities, and he does not understand why sometimes. And sometimes he's upset that I'm the one picking him up from school, you know, hoping that he will be So it is very difficult to answer your question. And actually, he met his father for the first time when he was 3 years old. So you can imagine the difficulty he has had to live with the fluctuations associated with his father's presence. Dejected, frustrated. Absolutely, yes. I do feel frustrated because I never envisaged that this part would be this difficult and unsettling. The first time my husband was kidnapped, in fact, in 2015, it was a great shock, as I was heavily pregnant as at that time.
Before you enter, because that's where I was going to ask you. Let me just put it before you go on, please. Were you at Afari Beku in 2017 when the Nigerian military invaded your home in order to murder Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, our leader? And, you know, as you're saying, it's understandable. You're a human being. We are all humans. What was your feeling concerning the whole evil episode as of that time? You can continue, please.
Okay, as at that time, 2017, that is the most difficult thing I have ever had to face for months. Why was it difficult? Because I did not know where my husband was. I was on the phone to him. I was meant to travel that week, but I think I had to get something for him. So my traveling, I had to reschedule and then book it for the next week. So we were on the phone and talking, and I started to hear this sporadic shootings. So my heart skipped and I screamed, what was that? He said, he's coming, he's coming, I should hold him. So I started to scream on the phone. I was screaming because he wasn't giving me any response. So I was screaming and asking, what is going on? What is going on? This very statement I'm making should be found on BBC interview or not, which is the reason I cannot interview with BBC, except if they accept the full responsibility to air a complete interview with them.
They censor, we know, they censor things. That's it.
So they censored quite a lot of my interviews, which I did with them on the 11th of February 2018. In fact, they asked me a question: why haven't we heard? I mean, why haven't we been able to see you or reach you or get your response from your tweet message? So I did explain to them that it was so traumatizing. I was haunted and tormented and traumatized for months because of that event. I miscarried because of that very day.
You had a miscarriage, really, because of that event?
Yes, because of that very event. So because of that, I wasn't out there and moving because I was quite ill, and the trauma was unbearable. This was a man who was getting ready in preparation for his court appearance in no due time, as we all know, but then was attacked by the same government a few days before. So after my BBC interview, I carried on with investigation and questioning as always in the background. So this is one of the challenges, as feeling frustrated, and it is the uncertainty that comes with it as well. It can get one very frustrated. So to answer your question, I was on the phone when that attack took place. I was on the phone to him when it took place. So if I can continue with explaining how difficult it is and how frustrating it could be, that I do feel frustrated quite a lot of times. So I do ask myself sometimes, when I'm in so much agony, I would ask myself, what about the children who have lost their fathers and uncles in the course of this struggle? This was some time ago. That was before I started to fall into or every question started to fall into the line of right answer. No sooner had I asked myself this question than I realized these situations and these feelings come with the territory. And I do tell myself that we're all paying the price for freedom, and that is sacrificial. We're all paying at the altar of pain, agony, loss, great loss of our loved ones, friends, and families. We go through each day, immersing ourselves in the fond memories of them. That is also a different torture on its own. It's a different torture on its own. It could make me feel better sometimes. It could add more torment to my feelings sometimes. So, to answer your question, yes, I do feel frustrated.
Going further, concerning or using what you said, now I want to ask you this direct question. What is it like to be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, owing to the tediousness of this journey, his engagements, and the dedications to the struggle for the restoration of Biafra? What is it like? Just your experience. What is it like to be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu?
Okay, thank you. To be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, or Hamadike one of Biafra, I would like to say that there has been two stages of what it is like to be the wife of Nnamdi Kanu. Period of this struggle and the present stage. So this very stage, I mean, 16th of September, this very September, 16th of September 2022, will be exactly 21 years of knowing Nnamdi Kanu. And minus 8 years from that 21 years, that is how long we've been married. To be wife of Nnamdi Kanu, on our very traditional marriage day, he was kidnapped. he was taken from me. So just like what you see in the movies, you know, having problems during the day of an event.
He was kidnapped.
And who? Yes, he was. He was
the start
abducted.
of baptism by fire. Go on, please.
He was taken, and who was that? Who did that? That was Owazurike, Ralph Owazurike. So I wouldn't delve into that today. Life after that is just the usual life of couples, which I will detail at some point in the future, so not today. But for today, I will say that it is very hard and difficult, because you would, based on the natural order of couple relationship, want to be with your husband, plan and execute these plans together, you know, birth and raise children together, and all the rest of the case, you know, as the case may be. At first, I would be very upset when he does not pick my call. You know, women, you just, sometimes when you need attention and you want to have a conversation and that time is not there. So I would be upset, and I would, you know, or when he does not pick my call or return my call. So over time, I learned to let it go. I proactively started to think, oh, maybe he's in a meeting, because I've had to sit while he's in meetings. He will be in meetings, from this meeting to another meeting. Whilst he's there talking, I'll have to bring water, knowing that he's been sat there for hours. So having seen all that, I started to fall into line, you know, proactively. So when he does not pick if he's away and does not pick my call, I think, oh, okay, it's one of those meetings and is one of those interviews. So gradually it became his action plan to call me as soon as it's free. We have gone 10 days without him calling me, and I knew he was okay. We've gone 10 days without him calling me, and I knew he's fine where he is. He will call when he's done. He could be airborne, you know. So it is tedious. It is absolutely tedious. You have to be strong. You have to be understanding to know that absolutely this is what it takes. Because if I have it in my head that it is tedious and is terrible, then you start to go into a place of depression or whatever. So in order not to let that happen, this is the picture that we built together. So this is what it is, and this is how I have had to deal with it. So it is very tedious. It can be very daunting sometimes, because I get to do quite a lot of things. You know, I tend to fill in his place, and you know, some meetings like parents' meetings, and I have to do all of that. So yes, it's quite tedious.
Okay, let's move on. Do you receive encouragements and or discouragements from family members concerning your position as the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Do you receive encouragements and or discouragements from family members?
Yes, I do. I mean, in life, it's always a two-way path. even when one is in school, in your course of study, in your career, you do get encouragements and discouragements. It could be directly or indirectly, but it's a natural thing. It's not something that it is to be thought to be a bad thing. So it's a natural thing, and it happens in every course of one's life. So in everything we do, we may not get encouraged all the time, nor discouraged, but not in a bad way all the time. It is something that happens in the course of life. Everything we do, it may be indirectly or directly sometimes, but just as every other person, one can be discouraged or encouraged by the actions of those around them. So, for example, I have it's my husband's cousin, the wife. She said, "Oh, you're studying a professional course. Why are you studying a professional course? You're going to look for jobs and you do this and So to me, I could have thought that would discourage me. I could have thought, am I in the right path? Am I on the right track? Am I studying the right course? Am I, But that is how some discouragement can come as. So it's nothing at all to be discouraged. I mean, discouragement is sometimes is a lesson. You can get discouragement, but then you look at that very path and say, why is this way? Has something been done right or wrong? And then you look around again to see. So for example, in the workplace, it's called critical path analysis. So this sort of joins with being the wife of Nnamdi Kanu and how it feels, the journey. Because I have to be in line with not just the structure of who I am, of my particular kind of person, but also fill in the gaps found in the critical path. I will try to be not very ambiguous, but as concise and precise as much as possible to avoid anyone being bound by the complexity of ambiguity. So if, for example, I say I want to make, I think it's a maize meal. We call it asoroswoka. So that is there are processes to do that, and I want to present it in a particular way. So I want someone to see it and say, this is good. So in my head, I will try as much as I can to make sure that I carry out all the steps appropriately. So this is connecting with discouragement, encouragement, and being the wife of Nnamdi Kanu. I'm bringing everything together. So this process is called a critical path analysis. I would get the plantain wrap, the plantain leaf to wrap this maize meal. And before I do that, I will think, for someone to see this and eat it and like it, have I got the right amount of salt? Have I got the right amount of pepper? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
So I would go back and run another test, which is stir the maize meal and taste for salt and taste for pepper to see. Now, do not forget that the taste buds are palates. They taste things differently. So I could taste and think to myself, oh, I'm okay with the salt and I'm okay with the pepper. But someone else might not be okay with the pepper and the salt. So that is my critical path analysis. That is me trying to make sure that very food turns out okay. So someone else who eats it and does not like it may say, oh, there is no salt or there is no pepper. Or someone with another kind of taste bud would say, there is too much salt and there is too much pepper. But one thing I learned that from my father-in-law. God bless his dear, beloved, departed soul. my husband took after him in terms of being diplomatic, and my little one as well. He's the same way. So my father-in-law will eat that food, and he will not tell you that it is salty or it is not salty. If it is salty, he will say, there could have been, there's something that tastes like too much salt in this. How did you put the salt? So that is how he would ask you those questions. So to me, if he asked me that, I wouldn't feel discouraged to cook next time. I would want to cook and make it better. Do you understand? So to answer your question in terms of discouragement and encouragement, it is a natural thing. Sometimes you see things that would discourage you. Sometimes you see things that will encourage you. So it's both. Is life is all balanced.
Okay. Let me ask you this question, please. Some time ago, you briefly appeared in a so-called Zoom prayer session by some infiltrators and renegades of IPOB. Can you tell us more about how and why you were present in that Zoom meeting, please?
Okay. Meeting, a prayer. It was a prayer meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so to explain that, I happen to be in communication with the women leader in the United States, Mrs. Bridget Okorafor. She's a great woman. She has a good heart, and she yearns for the release of my husband, our leader, Mazen Namdekano. She would send me a text and say, on Saturdays, every Saturday for months, she would send me a text and said, the Biafran women are in prayer. And I would say, oh, I will raise my hands in prayers. And sometimes I would say, put me in your prayers. Because after the funeral of my mom, I had fallen so much ill that I haven't been quite myself. So at some point, I said to her that, she said to me, is actually okay for you to join in this prayer? And I said, yes, absolutely, you're right. I should join in this prayer, because it will be a great thing for me to encourage the people who take the time out of the little time they have to pray for the release of our leader, for his safety and his well-being. So if not for anything else, I should at least encourage them and say, Jisinike, keep up the good work. So back to your question again, these are the sort of things you would do, someone could perceive as discouragement. So if I don't do that, a few might be discouraged to say, where is the wife? She doesn't join us. To me, it may not be discouragement, because if I hadn't been told, I would not be aware of what they're doing. But because she tells me, because she tells me all the time that we are praying, we've gone into prayer now, I felt it was my obligation to encourage them. And how would I encourage them? Directly by praying with them. Because I believe that there is power in prayer, with people joining hands together in agreement. It is powerful. So I said to her one of these days that I would join, and then next time again I said, today is rough for me, I'm not able to do that, maybe just finishing from the little one's football, and even in illness, because I have to do all of this being ill as well. So I said to her, I can't remember the month right now, but I know it was on the 5th. So I said to her the 5th of that month that I will join, and she was elated. She was like, okay, that's great. She was happy about that, which also I was very happy to pray with my sisters and mothers. So on that day, in fact, the night before that day, I became more ill. The ailment I have, I take medication, and I probably was taking the wrong medication, and it wasn't helping me, it was making it worse. So in the morning, I was just thinking to myself, how would I do today? Because I was shivering. When I walk, my feet will be hurting. And in fact, I was in bed. I was crying when my brother-in-law called me. That is Kinsley. Kinsley called me, and he said, "Okay, what is the problem?" I said, "This thing is not feeling. I'm not feeling any better with this thing." And he said, "What have you taken?" And we talked, and because he was really worried, so he called one of our uncles, their uncles, and brought him on the phone, and we spoke, and he asked me a few questions, and we talked about a particular thing I needed to take, and I quickly ordered immediate delivery for that, in fact, to collect in the store. So I had to go collect that. I took it, and I felt better a little bit, but I was still feeling very dizzy. I can't walk without holding on to things. And then I thought to myself, can I actually attend this prayer? But because I have said I will be there, I had to be there. So I joined on. I was called in, I think it was via Zoom. I had a blanket over my head because I was very, very ill. Because when I'm ill, is all tears that falls off my eyes. So I got on. I was brought in, and we prayed, and I encouraged them with the word of God and affirmed the power in prayer, and we prayed. And that was the first time I actually put together the death of my mother and the incarceration of my husband and my illness at the same time. I've always had to think one at a time, but in that moment, that was the first time I saw the three mighty high mountains in front of me. And I could barely actually even talk. I wanted to sing a lot of songs. I was filled with so much emotions and the pain as well that I was going through physically right there. Not just emotional pain. I was physically very, very ill. So I joined them in prayers, and I realized that being amongst them, by being amongst them, I felt, or in the midst of them, I felt better. Not of the physical pain, but the emotional burden kind of eased a little bit because I was amongst people. So, also being the wife of Nnamdi Kanu, you have to, be careful regarding your parts and where you are and things. So, but I felt great because we were in the presence of God. We were seeking His face. So I made a very few speech, and I said I would be there. I would always join them once in a while. If it's once a month or once in 2 months, I would join, and then that I like the fact that they come together to pray. That shows commitment, and the fact that they understand that Nnamdi Kanu is suffering where he is, and he needs the intervention of God. It's also great, and for us all to pour out our hearts, asking God that for Nnamdi Kanu to be where he is today, that alone is righteousness unto his path. Nnamdi Kanu, for being where he is a righteous man. And because of that, God will hear our prayers. And after saying that, I went on mute, and in fact I went on mute instead of going away, and had to tend to the little one. So at some point I could still hear the voice and noise. I thought, oh my God, this thing is still on. So I logged off and I went off. So that was what happened. Nothing happened. I mean, no problems or anything whatsoever. And then I think the next day, I got a text from my sister's husband, my little sister's husband. He said, "Madam, can I call you? He always asks me first if it's okay to speak to me, because knowing that I was very, very ill." So I said, "Yes, okay, you can call me." And he rang me and he said, I've just been fighting and explaining to some people about something." I said, what happened?" He said, "You were on a platform that you shouldn't be." I thought, oh my God, what platform is that? And he said, "The platform you were on yesterday to pray." I thought, I don't think I went there to do anything wrong. And what is wrong with the platform? So that was my question, and I will keep the rest to myself. So that was what happened, to answer your question.
Okay, we move on. What do you wholesomely, what do you say about the extraordinary rendition of our leader Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, notwithstanding he is holding a British passport? He was renditioned to a country, a third country, that Nigeria is not holding Nigeria passport. So it is really bizarre in the world stage. What do you say about it? This episode, this bizarre episode. What do you say about it?
It is indeed bizarre. It is mind-boggling as to how countries who are signatory to the same UN Charter that stands against human rights, these two countries, they are signatory to that very charter, the Human Rights Charter of the United Nations. But because this is currently being put through the legal process, there isn't anything that I think that is not out there, and everybody knows that Nigeria is making a fool of herself, and UK is also making a mess of herself, because these two, they are signatories to the UN Charter that stands against human rights violation. And keeping someone in solitary violation, in solitary confinement from such time to this very moment is a clear sign that these two are probably unaware of their involvement. Well, like I said, because this is currently being put through the legal process, there is not much I should say now. But underground works are being done, and the right feathers are being ruffled. Like the UN working group, having declared the importance of the case being resolved. Immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu, because this is a clear violation of his human rights, as declared by the UN Charter, to which Britain, like I mentioned earlier, as well as Nigeria, are signatories. So I think this brings me to the encouragement part of this question as well, which I addressed earlier. I don't know how much advantage we are taking of this working group declaration by UN, as attained by Bruce Fein, who was engaged by the women leader, IPOB Women Leader USA, led by, that's Mrs. Bridget Okafor, and a few good-hearted Biafrans. Excuse me. This needs to be made known far and wide via social media handle in order to gain traction, in order to gain the right and proper traction. But prior to the UN working group, I'm speaking about this because this is already in the open. I actually met with Bruce Fein, and we discussed He was here in the UK. We discussed in details, steps to be taken, and he got the nod of approval. And here is the result. All the strategies are in pipeline and will be made known in the future when they're already out. Having said this, I have been also interviewed by the Times UK, which was published, I think, 11th of July 2021. In fact, I was interviewed alongside Kingsley, and that's Kingsley Kanu, my brother-in-law, and I'm sure this is also in the public domain. I think this so the encouragement I spoke of should come from the spreading of any move we make in the public, of any information we have that needs to go far and wide. So I believe that very interview we both had on the 11th of July 2021 is also in the public domain and was shared far and wide. The UK government, the United Kingdom government, they will at some point have to face the fact that it is their responsibility to see to their citizen, which is Nnamdi Kanu, just as they intervened in and prevented the extraordinary rendition of late Alhaji Umaru Dikko in 1984. He was not even a British citizen. I'm not sure why he was saved, or why that very situation was stopped from happening. So if he was not a British citizen and his extraordinary rendition was stopped, then the British government will at some point have to face the fact. They have to face their responsibility towards their citizen, and that is Nnamdi Kanu. There is nothing they can do about it. They will have to. Thank you.
Have you ever visited our leader this time around in the DSS custody? If yes, how do you see his physical and mental fitness? I'm talking about this time around.
This time around, yes. Yes, I have seen him. I've been to see him. Yes, I have been to see him. And in fact, Nnamdi Kanu is mentally and physically fit. More mentally fit than those roaming free, but who are not free indeed. And I'm sure people would know that, or people already know, our people already know that he is, why do we call him Ohamadike? He is the strength of all. He is our strength. So he is mentally the most strongest that I've ever known. We discussed, we spoke for quite a while. We talked about his health, which is not something that people are not aware of. He's healthy, but he needs a physician who would deal with his heart issues. Everybody knows that he has heart issues, and that is very, very, very imminent. It must happen, because you can't keep someone in solitary confinement and not provide that person with the medical care that he requires. They're just continually making a fool of their country and who they are. So we discussed the children, but most importantly, we discussed the struggle and other things which I could not think about. I couldn't even remember. But he remembered them all. He was asking me this and that, and I was like, wow. I was trying to remember some that I've even forgotten about. So we had our discussions, and he is as sound and clear as the crystal ball. That's who he is. So when he kept asking me these questions, I thought, oh my God. I started to praise and hail him, and I said, Ohamadike, Ohamadike, the man that speaks for the helpless, the man that saw the light and said, no, I want my people to experience this light. I praised and hailed him, and I threw accolades, and he was smiling. And I said, Odowu, come on, Ozuzu. And he stood, there he is, in his usual glory. He stood tall, like the demigod that he is amongst men. He stood, and he was laughing. He said, Ibiakwala. I continued to praise and hail him. I continued to sing praises of him, and he said, okay, you know you are my kiss of death. I don't know, I'm sure some people play chess. I'm not a very good player myself, but my husband is a good, he's very good at chess, and the little one plays chess as well. So when I came back, because I didn't have internet whilst I was there, I had to ask the little one, "What? Can you tell me what is the kiss of death? I mean, what does that mean?" And he showed me the moves of what it means to be kiss of death. I'm sure I don't know if you play chess.
Yes, I do. I play chess very well.
Oh, great. So that was what he said to me. He said, you know, you're my kiss of death. And I laughed. I thought, okay, so he's very sound mentally. He has all his... I mean, I'm sure that is what people know him to be. The most intelligent of them all. The most mentally articulative man. So I don't think there's anything I'm saying here that is new. So he is very sound and clear as a crystal ball in terms of mental and physical strength.
Okay, let me ask you this last question before we take some few seconds or minutes break. Have you ever been contacted directly or indirectly by any Nigerian agent?
Contacted?
Yes.
No. Absolutely no.
Okay, thank you very much. You are listening to Tough Talk on Radio Biafra House of Service, coming to you through Radio Biafra London. You are hearing the voice of our First Lady, Nwada Uchechi Okwu-Kanu. Today is the 3rd day of September 2022. We shall go into a few minutes break so that when we come back, we shall continue in the second part. Please don't go away.
You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London.
Biafra worldwide phone call campaign continues. BBC, a propaganda machine and racist media set up by the Great Britain to oppress the oppressed people of Biafra. BBC, your media war propaganda of 1967 that led to the genocide of over 3.5 million Biafrans, men, women, and children. did not stop us. Do you know why? Because we are the sons and daughters of the great lion from the tribe of Biafra. Our minds are made up. Your shenanigans, antics, and fake gutter media will not stop us either. We must and shall restore Biafra. Biafra worldwide phone call campaign alert continue. Now pay close attention. Be polite when you call BBC and use the following prompt when you call. Hello, my name is. You tell them your name. I am calling to ask about BBC policy of propaganda against the victims of genocide. Since you are obsessed with telling lies about Biafrans, here are 5 more questions to consider. Now, this is the question to ask BBC. We are witnesses to BBC racist coverage of terrorism, implying that black Africans' lives don't matter. Yet the same BBC rallies the whole world at the slightest terrorist incident in the United Kingdom. Here is the second question. But when it comes to Nigeria, BBC not only hides terrorist killings, but they slander the victims and survivors of terrorism and genocide. The third one. When will the grand patrons of lies and hypocrisy, the BBC Fake News Network, make a documentary about the daily slaughtering of Nigerians by Fulani terrorists and the government of Nigeria, whom you protect so that London may plunder Biafran's resources? The fourth question. Is the oil and gas of Biafra the reason that BBC is obsessed and terrified by the agitation for freedom by the victims
of... You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London. You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London.
Welcome back. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. We are on Tough Talk with our First Lady, Nwada Uchechi Okwu-Kanu. That is who you are hearing her voice all over the world. Today is the 3rd day of September 2022. Therefore, we must continue to the second part of the questions, please. Nwada, welcome back to the second part.
Thank you.
Yeah. As I said before about your answer the question. Now, what do you have to say about IPOB structure? What do you have to say about IPOB structure and some people trying to thwart this established structure? What do you have to say personally? Please go on.
Thank you. IPOB structure. IPOB. In fact, first of all, the mantra of IPOB is one family. The IPOB structure that I know has been set up as the backbone upon which this movement relies. That is a structure. And in every organization, if you do not have a structure, you will collapse. Just as a human being, what is our structure? It is a spinal cord that you have the spinal cord, the spinal line, your spine. That's the structure. If that is tampered with, if you have a problem with that, you will collapse as a human. You will not walk. So the structure has been set up there in IPOB. IPOB has her own structure, which is her backbone upon which she relies. There is an hierarchical organogram. I mean, this has been since 2014, 2015. In terms of the organogram, that's what I'm talking about. The organogram has been since 2014 and is hierarchical rather. It is put into place to enable the effective functioning of IPOB. And that structure stems from the head of Directorate of State through to the last official within every IPOB chapter. The Directorate of State spearheads some time ago during 2015. I'm sure those who were in IPOB then would hear a lot of, IPOB is being spearheaded by the DOS, IPOB is spearheaded by the DOS, DOS is Nnamdi Kanu, and Nnamdi Kanu is the DOS. I don't know if nobody sings that mantra anymore, but that is the structure that I know that Nnamdi Kanu has set in place. The Directorate of State spearheads the movement, and I'm sure we are all aware that Nnamdi Kanu is also a member of DOS. Hence, any operation outside of this very structure, honestly, should be disregarded. And let it be worthy of note that Radio Biafra, which is why I am here today, I mean, I could go on BBC and the rest of them, but Nnamdi Kanu understands the power of media. He knows that if you have media, you have the power. The rest of the media, censored or sponsored by the government, they will always censor your news. They will always twist what you say to be something else. And Nnamdi Kanu will say to you, Radio Biafra is where you come and you get the unadulterated news or information. So let's not forget that Radio Biafra is the mouthpiece of the movement. There could be other movements, other places in the world. There are several movements, everybody trying to make sure that we get Biafra. But IPOB, under the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu, Radio Biafra is the mouthpiece of the movement. And as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will always say, Radio Biafra is where we worship. It is where we worship. For those trying to thwart the established structure, the very purpose, the very spinal cord upon which IPOB lies on. They need to be aware that they are functioning outside of IPOB, being led by Nnamdi Kanu. And when you function outside of a defined structure, you are deliberately sabotaging the objective of that very movement. Let me give you a biological example. Some people may think I actually didn't go to school. During the cell formation, I'm giving a biological example as to how you function within a structure. During a cell formation, which is referred to as mitosis, some say mitosis, some say mitosis, the cells would split into two sister cells to create a bigger function. And what is that bigger function? That bigger function is known as the tissues. Now, these tissues would come together to create organs, and the organs create a functional system. Now, if you relate this to the system of IPOB, you will understand the hierarchical structure that I'm talking about. Therefore, when you function outside of a functional system, you are an exoparasite. I mean, a lot of us, we did biology in secondary school. You function as an exoparasite, and your objective is specifically to penetrate the functional system to cause harm or mishap. That becomes your job. That becomes your prerogative. That becomes your objective. That becomes your vision as an exoparasite, to cause mishap, because you're functioning outside of the mapped structure or system or functional system. However, if an exoparasite decides to establish a symbiotic relationship, I want our people, for everyone who is under the sound of my voice, to understand this very example that I'm giving. If you fail to understand it, ask your brother, ask your sister, ask your lawyer, or ask your doctor, whom you think might understand better. If an exoparasite decides to then establish a symbiotic relationship with an already established system. If you remember, I did say I would try to not be ambiguous, for us not to be bound by the complexity of ambiguity. So I'm trying to speak in a simple term and in a simple tone so everyone will understand me. Now, if an exoparasite decides to establish a symbiotic relationship with an already established system, then there must be a form of agreement, underline the word agreement, between the system and the exoparasite. Outside of any agreement, outside of these very agreement, the exoparasite must be regarded as an intruder whose intention is to cause harm and to cause chaos. To explain this further, think about the grazing cattle, cattle. The grazing cattle and an egret. Egret is E-G-R-E-T. Whilst the cattle grazes, the egret feeds on the fleas. You know, the fleas that you find on the back, on the skin of the cattle. The egret feeds on the fleas on the cattle. So they both are benefiting from their relationship. So whilst the cattle is grazing and the fleas are, eating off the skin and disturbing the cattle, the egret is, as light as it is feeding on the fleas. And the cattle has no problem whatsoever because the egret is helping it. But imagine a dog wanting to jump on the back of a grazing cattle. What will happen?
Of course, the cattle will, there will be a fight.
Absolutely. So that is, when you try to thwart thwart a structure, a system, that is what happens, because the egret comes based on agreement and feeds on the fleas, and they both cohabit. So I think that is my answer to for those trying to thwart the structure set by Okwu-Kanu and his DOS members. And that is where IPOB is spearheaded from. Thank you. Sorry, excuse me, I was coughing.
Let me repeat the question for the interest of the public. I think I off my telephone without knowing it. Do you at any time feel bullied or threatened by any individual, organization, or government agents? Go on.
Yes, I have been, bullied and threatened. I have been bullied and threatened by an individual. No, not at all. But organization and governments agents. In fact, the government. There's S there because governments and agents. Yes, absolutely yes. But that at some point in the future, I will explain better. Of course, we all know. I'm not here.
That you better do in the future, because everybody listening to your voice, we like to know the governments that are sponsoring this bully or threats. Please, everybody. We don't joke with our first family. That is the reality. Please go on.
Like I said, yes. For individual, I don't know. Not that I'm aware of any individual bully. I'm not one they bully anyway. You can't bully me, unfortunately. But threatened by organization or government, of course, Nigeria government. Yes, I am threatened by their steps that they have taken. And I'm also threatened by the steps of other governments, such as United States. Like I said, I can just leave it here for now, because I will just leave that for now. But yes, I am being threatened by at least these two governments that I've mentioned. And in fact, if I could buttress on that, I have been threatened. I've been threatened by, there would be organization, because it wasn't just one person. So these people would be in a dark van. We have experienced that before. Myself and my husband, we were being watched, and we made the necessary moves that we had to. Also, since his incarceration, yes, I have noticed such movements once again, and I took the same necessary step. So yes, to your question.
Okay. Now, what is your general counsel or advice to the family members of this global movement, the indigenous people of Biafra worldwide? What is your general counsel or advice to every one of us?
Thank you for that question. I'm not here today to tell us all the related history that we already know, Chinua Achebe, all the quotes that we already know, all the books we've all read. I for one, I try to implement what I read in a book. which is why I have a problem with some certain sects. And when I say sect, I mean people who gather and create mantras. It becomes something they say without thinking about it. So when I read the book, I try to relate it to life, whatever I read. And that makes me an exemplastic. I am exemplastic, an eclecticist. Having said that, we know the story of every history. So, but how do we apply it to our current situations? How do we? People read Bible, people read Quran, people read a lot of things. People get history from the past and they put it together. That is what I do, and I learn from it, and then I separate points that I would like to use. We also know Winnie Mandela. We try to always use Mandela to at least make reference when we talk about our leader, Okwu-Kanu. And a few times as well, I've been asked questions about Winnie Mandela, and people just throw comments and few parts of it. Some people, I don't know how aware they are regarding the real life of Winnie, the things she did on the ground, whilst no one would see her, screaming on social media and faffing about. She was doing a few things, even though she was stopped by government, which I've just answered your question here. Now, my general counsel would be that as a people, now this counsel goes to people who fall under the leadership of Okwu-Kanu, those who believe in his cause, those who believe that he is the hope of the hopeless and that he's the light in our darkest path. And he is the voice that speaks for those who cannot speak or fight for themselves. This counsel is for those people. And from what he said to me as well, we must remain focused and avoid any distractions whatsoever. As you have observed, there has been a lot of noise over the past year, which has been aimed at distorting the vision of the struggle. Always have it at the forefront of your mind about those we have lost. Have it at the forefront of your mind those who we have lost in the struggle, who died with the hope that our people will be liberated from the claws of our oppressors. In the coming months, or in the months to come, and has been in the last year, you will continue to be exposed to a lot of noise. You will continue to be exposed to a lot of noise. As Okwu-Kanu will always say, they will try, they will always try. If IPOB is not doing anything good or right, nobody would want to distort what we are doing. All the things he has predicted, everything, the way he says it, it happens. He made mention of, in the coming months, some of you will sell out, some people will sell out, and you will see the evidence. They will start running mad, just by their own hands, without you chasing them. they will start running. That is the words of my husband, not me, said it. That is his prophecy, one of his prophecies. But we should always remember that those who gave their lives gave it in the hope that our people will be liberated. So their blood must not go in vain, be spilt in vain. But learn to listen. I don't know, but I know that some of us have learned over the course of time. We've learned to listen. I've spoken to some people and they don't listen. And when you don't listen to me, I'll stop talking to you. I wouldn't bother. I don't have time to waste, to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Nnamdi Kanu said, listen to the words that will add value, and keep you on track and in line with the vision of IPOB led by him. That is led by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I can understand our people's nature of usurping authority, which has always ended up causing us damage as a people. I was on outreach for the objective of our people in the United States to come together. And I gave an analysis. I said something, and I will say that thing again today, because I haven't even seen that video. It seems that the reason why a lot, I want everyone to pay attention to this. Pay absolute attention. It seems the reason why a lot of our people join a group or join meetings or join Umunna but unfortunately this is not Umunna. This is not Umunna meeting. This is freedom fighting organization. But it seems the reason why a lot of people join groups is not primarily to participate in helping the group to achieve its purpose or objective, but wanting to win and create a clique systematically with the intention of introducing their own selfish vision, eventually causing mayhem within the main group as a reason to create their own visionless group, which always, it ends up nowhere, dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. You split, you start your own, you split even within yourself and keep splitting. Opposite of mitosis. The opposite of the biological example I gave. Opposite of mitosis. They end up maligning people from the main vision of the original group and making them visionless. Now these people become more confused, more disjointed, and more directionless because they hate the original group and have no clarity of purpose whatsoever. This has been the mantra, this has been the motto, this has been the steps and the structure of our people. Multiply this stupendous ignoramus by, let's say, 10,000, 50,000. That is equal to where we are today. Worse than we were ever. Worse than we ever were. I leave you to ponder on that. I leave you to go back and perhaps listen to what I've said and see if you can make any sense of it and analyze it and try to pinpoint if that has been the case. Let's remain focused. That is the word I have for you from my husband, our leader, your leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of this very movement. I am not talking to another person who runs a movement. I am not talking to another person who runs another name of Biafra fighting organization. I am talking to the people who fall under the power of Nnamdi Kanu to remain focused and steadfast. Remember the teachings he has taught you all these years. He kept saying it. Ayana Anonti. You don't listen. Everything he has said and taught for the past how many years, it seems like he never said a word. People are distorted and confused and behaving like they don't know a thing. He said, you need to be strong. Be without fear. That is his word in the face of your enemies. This is his favorite quote. Be brave and upright. Upright. Wakagoto. That God may love thee. And that evil may not befall thee. Speak the truth. Always. Leave backbiting and underground digging to make sure that your brother falls into the pit. Leave it behind. Speak the truth always, even if it leads to your death, even if it makes you appear foolish, even if it makes you appear weak. Speak that truth. Remember to focus on our goals. We have a goal. The rest is just noise. Noise. Absolute noise. Ad feminam. You can write this down, or you can replay it. These are Latin words. If you delve into psychology, this will make more meaning. Ad feminam. Ad hominem. Ad hominem fallacy, ad hominem abusive, ad hominem circumstantial. These are all noise. They are noise. They make you lose focus. Ignore this noise. And always bear in mind that there is something called power, which is the ability to alter, to direct, or influence another's behavior or course of event. That is what we have. That is what every IPOB member who is under the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu has. Which ad feminines, all the people causing or trying to thwart the structure which he has suffered for, which he has bled for, are trying to thwart. They have none. Remember, this is IPOB, and we always win. Always, in the end, we win. Thank you.
Dear Nwada, thank you very much for being here. But before you go, I would like you to also make your closing remarks using our dialects, our language. You are an Igbo woman, so please talk to us closingly using Igbo language. Ure asụsụ be anyị gwa ya okwu ka amatakwa na ị na-asụ na ịwụ nwa afọ Igbo. Ndewo, go on.
Ndewo Maazị. As Hamadike would say, Okwu Igbo wa asụsụ eluigwe. Asụsụ eluigwe. I would have screamed IPOB, one family, IPOB, if I would get a response. But I would say that for us all. Achọrọ m ikele ndị be anyị. Achọrọ m ikele ụmụ Biafra niile. Ma ndị kwetara n'odudu Nnamdi Kanu ma ndị na-ekwetaghị. Ana m ekele mmadụ niile nke na-anụ olu m n'abalị a. Ọtụtụ mgbe apụtabeghị m bịa kwuo okwu, kama ihe gbasara unu na-eche m, ọ na-eche m uche. Amakwana m na unu hụrụ m n'anya dịka m si hie unu n'anya. Eji m aka a na-ekele ndị niile na-agba mbọ ịhụ na onye isi anyị pụtara. Na-ekelekwa ndị n'ebe ha nọ ma ekpere ma ngamije, n'ihi na anyị bụ IPOB, anyị bụ ọnụrụbe nwanne agbara ọsọ. O wejiri mara anyị. So anyị tie mkpu si IPOB, anyị etie one family. Kedu ihe ọ pụtara? Ọ bụ ịdị n'otu. Ka m were aka a kelee mmadụ niile n'ịbịakọta ka anyị dị n'otu, n'ihi na anyị ga-adịrịrị n'otu. Ma anyị adịghị n'otu, oge ka anyị na-emefu oge. Ka anyị wepụ iwe, ka anyị nwekwa ndidi, nwekwa nkasi obi, n'ihi na ndị anyị hụrụ n'anya nwụchara anwụ. Eze eluigwe anarala mkpụrụ obi ha n'udo. Kama anyị bụ ndị dị ndụ, ka anyị wepụ iwe, wepụ ọnụma, wepụ ekworo, bụrụ onye nche nwanne anyị. Ọhamadike kwuru okwu, nye iwu ka anyị lekọta onwe anyị, onye ọbụla lekọta nwanne ya. Ghara ị na-egbu nwanne gị, ghara ị na-egbu nwanne gị. Ka anyị ghara ị na-egbuchi onwe anyị, ka anyị nọrọ na nche, ka anyị nọrọ na nche, chebe onwe anyị. Ka anyị nọrọ na nchebe nke onwe anyị, n'ihi na ilekọta anyị, ime ka anyị nọrọ n'otu, ime ka ọ dịrị anyị na mma, bụ ihe ya ma ji nọrọ ebe ọ nọ today. Ihe o ji nọrọ ebe ọ nọ taa na ahụhụ ọ na-ata bụ ka anyị nọrọ na nchebe. Nchebe m na-ekwu okwu awụ ka anyị ghara ịnọ na mmerụ ahụ. Onye bịa ya megide nwanne ya, merụọ nwanne ya ahụ. Ọ bụ ya bụ ihe kpatara o ji nọrọ ebe ahụ. Ka anyị niile nọrọ n'udo, nọrọ n'otu, ịdị n'otu na ịhụnanya. Ndị niile ka nọnụ na-akwado ihe ya nwa hiwara na mbụ, ndị na-esorobeghị ikuku eburubeghị ha, mgbe ị na-eji ama onye hụrụ gị n'anya mgbe ị na-anọ ya. Otu ahụ onye ahụ si dosa ihe ya, gị hapụrụ ya ahụ otu ahụ. Ọ bụ ya bụ na ị hụrụ onye ahụ n'anya, gị lekọtara ya onye ahụ, kwadoziere ya. Ọ bụrụ na onye ahụ kụrụ okoko flower, I believe, gị na-akwadoro ya ahụ, na-achabi ya oto chichi ebe niile, gị chabie ya, gwọrọ ya ahụ mmiri, mezie. Gị aga-gburu ọgụ ka ịdọpụ ya, ka ịkụrụ ya kopụ na onye ahụ nọ ya. Ka m bupụ okoko a n'ụzọ, ka ọ pụọrọ m n'ụzọ, ka m nkọ nke m. Otu a ka ị ga-esi ezi ma ị hụrụ onye ahụ n'anya. N'ihi nke a, ndị niile n'ezi na ha hụrụ Nnamdi Kanu n'anya, hụbiga ya oke, bụ ndị nọ agbanyeghị nsogbu niile bịara n'ụzọ ha, agbanyeghị ọnwụnwa niile bịara n'ụzọ ha ma ha guzokwa ha ka guzogidere na ndụmọdụ ya ha ka guzogidere na nkụzi niile ọ kụziri ha ka guzogidere I'm looking for a word for pillar. Ha ka guzogide na mgbazi olu ọ gbaziri ha. Ọ bụ ndị a bụ ndị mma ọnọdụ Nnamdi Kanu nọ n'ụbọchị taa, ebe ọ nọ na ihe okwu nọ n'ebe ahụ. Ebe ọwụ na aga m ekwu okwu a n'okwu bekee ka m mkpọzie mmadụ ole na ole aha ka m were ohere a kelee ndị niile nọ na Directorate of State, ndị na-akpọkwa m ka ha mara otu m mere na-agakwa ije nọ n'ime ya ime ka onye isi anyị pụta. Ndị niile nọ n'okpuru Maazị Nnamdi Kanu bụ Ọhamadike one of Biafra land. Gakwarị na ndị a na-akpọ media warriors. Amaghị m ihe m ga-akpọ okwu Igbo na gallant and unshakable. A na-akwatu ha akwatu, ha bụ oke osisi. Nnamdi Kanu ọ na-agwa ya onye ukwu, ọ na-agwa ya onye nta. The media warriors were the arms, were aka IPOB Jalog. Achọrọ m ikele ha ka anyị jisie ike. Tweet Tuesday anyị na-eme, o chetara m ya, ọ jụrụ m ya ka anyị jisie ike kwanye ọkụ na Tweet Tuesday. Ozi ọwụla anyị nwụ ka anyị si na Tweet Tuesday mee ka ntị ndị iro anyị niile nwụrụ ọkụ. Sikwarị na Maazị Chike Dozie m ọkwa mgbe anyị kwuru okwu otu ihe si na-aga, ọkwa onye mbụ ọ jụrụ m ajụjụ ya. Unu jisie ike ka ihe ọ hapụrụ n'aka unu hapụ imebi. Ọ bụkwa na-ebu nye unu, kama amaara m na unu amụtala ezigbote ihe n'aka ya. Unu amụtala ihe niile ọ na-akụziri unu. Ọ bụkwa ya bụ ihe bụ na mmadụ ma ihe akụziri anyị ihe, ya esoro ihe ahụ akụziri ya na-eme ya otu ahụ. Ọ bịa bụ amamihe. So ekelela m unu ndị nwe m, ndị Chineke chọrọ mma, ndị dịka echi, n'ihi na echi a na-agwụ agwụ. Ahụ m niile bụrụ ọnụ ọ gaghị ezu ikele unu. Were eguzogide m n'ọnọdụ Nnamdi Kanu na mụnwa na-asị ka Chineke gọzie unu, chebe unu, dozie unu, kwadokwa nzọmụkwụ unu niile ruo, n'ihi na mgbe oge na-adịghị anya anyị ga-aṅụrịkwa ọṅụ ahụ anyị ṅụrịrị mgbe gara aga. Anyị ga-aṅụrị ya n'oge na-adịghị anya. Ka Chineke gọzie unu niile. Ekele m na-abịara unu n'ọnọdụ Maazị Nnamdi Kanu. Ọ bịa bụ ihe anyị na-akpọ on behalf of ekele m na-abara unu n'ọnọdụ Maazị Nnamdi Kanu, onye ndu nke IPOB worldwide. Ndewo.
Ndewo, Nwada Uchechi Okwu-Kanu, our First Lady. Thank you for being here with us, and I believe and hope that also in the future that you will spare your time also to talk with us or talk to us through this Salute platform.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There were Biafrans and lovers of freedom. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. We have come to the end of this program known as Tough Talk, and you've had it all. Therefore, we must continue, and we must continue. Thank you for listening. From me, Master Jonathan, from here, it is simply good evening.
Fight together, together, together. The more we fight together, then stronger we shall be.